Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. The Team Kong. This should be up around GVK time. Anyways, hello everyone. It's your boy Hunt back with another kickin' episode of Tabletop Recap. God, I should really redo that opener, but I am who I am, and you have to deal with me. So, I said we were going to review the Rick and Morty dungeon, but then I remembered we already did that, Big Boy Chungus and I, when we reviewed the box set as a whole, because it was, just kind of a short dungeon. We did it in like 2 sessions. Probably could have done it in 1 if the players were not dumb. But, yeah. So, today, instead, what I'm going to do is just give a full walkthrough, because I still want to talk about this dungeon more. I want to give you a full walkthrough of The Lost Dungeon of Rickedness, Big Rick Energy, which is such a fun title. This is the dungeon crawl that is available in the Rick and Morty starter set. A great starter set to get Rick and Morty fans into Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeons & Dragons fans into Rick and Morty. If you want an actual review of mine and Big Boy Chungus' thoughts on the dungeon, please check out several episodes ago when we reviewed the box set as a whole. So yeah, first up I want to say it's got a nice little introduction, tips on running the adventure, the role of the Dungeon Master, etc. And it talks about the DM screen, because it comes with a DM screen, adventure map, glossary, etc. The map is pretty easy to understand. I really like it, actually. It's very simple. This is full of great art, by the way. Incredible art throughout. And I kind of just want to go through each room. It's a 1 to 3 dungeon. I kind of just recommend having them go in at 3 and be 4 by the end of it. Yeah. So, the Lost Dungeon of Rickedness. The first room is the Sturge Room. You walk in, Sturges attack you. This knocked out one of my players. They couldn't fight Sturges. Insane. The next room is a Goblin Room. It's just goblins, 2 goblins hanging out on guard. The room after that is a Statue Room. And the room is supposed to trick you. The room kind of supposed to trick them into thinking that the statues are people who are frozen and stuff. But it's a joke. Like, it's a gag. They keep trying to figure out how to turn the people back. And then they keep finding more clues that just keeps telling them they're not statues. They're not statues. Then the next room is one that my players didn't go to on. I've run this twice. My players didn't go to this on either time. The Magic Mouth Room. It's a rectangular room that has a big magic mouth in it that gives them a riddle, and it keeps making disgusting sounds while they try to answer it. There's no way my group would have gotten it. They're all morons. They can't do riddles. They can't. Then there's another Goblin Room, all named after Jerry's, and they're playing. They're basically playing a Goblin version of Dungeons and Dragons, which is pretty wild. There is a Treasure Room. It's just a room with a treasure chest. It's a trapped treasure chest, and if you lose your stuff in another room where it all gets teleported away from you, it comes to this room. Then there's a third Goblin Room, which is about these goblins that dared each other to eat a bunch of gold. And the players can investigate why one of the goblins is dead. It's because he ate a ton of gold. It's actually a really funny room. If your players figure it out, like mine eventually did, it's pretty funny. And then we get to my favorite room that I was able to actually run, because your players won't go into every single room in the dungeon. My favorite room was the Writer's Room. So the person who wrote this dungeon, it's just her, sitting in the room. I'm looking for her name, but I don't see it on here. She's just in there writing, and if trying to finish it before her deadline. And if they bother her, she uses traps and stuff on them. She writes a bunch of traps to mess with them. Pretty wild. Then there's The Pickle Room. This is where we kind of start getting into references from the show. A lot of these rooms rely on popular references from the show through season 3. Most of them are 1 and 2, but through season 3, because 4 was not out yet when this was released. This is the Pickle Rick Room, basically. And all these, it's just a pantry full of pickles, and you go up the door on the top. But they're all lycanthro pickles. They're people who turned into pickles. And they can bite you and give you a lycanthropy that makes you a lycanthro pickle. Big Boy Chungus left G in this room to die. He locked him in the room and he was killed by lycanthro pickles. So here's the curse of lycanthro pickling. If you want to use it in a game and don't have this, a humanoid creature has a 20% chance to be afflicted with the curse of lycanthro pickling after being wounded by a lycanthro pickle. The curse lasts for 3 days. Each long rest the creature spins in a vat or jar of pickling brine prolongs the curse by 1 day. So that's what you have to do to keep it if you want to keep it. The reason it's only 3 days is because they don't want you taking a lot of this Rick and Morty stuff onto other officially published adventures. My group did, though. They've actually used some of their stuff from this adventure in Descent into Avernus that we're running now. Pretty cool. A lycanthro pickle can either resist its curse or embrace it. By resisting the curse, a lycanthro pickle remains its normal alignment and personality while in human form, or humanoid form. It lives its boring life as it always has, burying deep its raging, murderous urges just like the rest of us. Some individuals see little point in fighting the curse and accept what they are. They can assume pickle form or hybrid form at will. Most lycanthro pickles that embrace their briny nature succumb to bloodlust, becoming evil, opportunistic creatures that prey on the weak. In hybrid form, a lycanthro pickle has the same statistics as a twig blight, with the altered ability noted in Area 9. Its pickle form, a lycanthro pickle, has no statistics and is indistinguishable from a pickle because it's a pickle. There you go. Then there's the butt room. There's this giant stone butt sticking up out of the ground. And there's a plaque on the ceiling. So if you scale the butts and you read the plaque basically says, got him, and then your butt disappears. You become a buttless being. When this happened to Connor, he freaked out. Connor gets very attached to his characters, especially since that character shared the same exact name as him. #cringe. He's a good guy. But the whole dungeon, he was like, can I get my butt back in this room? I need a room where I can get my butt back. I need my butt back. He was very concerned about getting his butt back. Then there's the Orc Gift Room. So there's 2 rooms about this. There's a festive dinner room after this one, but you can enter the festive dinner room without entering the Orc Gift Room first, and the festive dinner room will not make sense without the Orc Gift Room. It's basically a Christmas room. It's orcs preparing presents for the festive dinner room where they go in and they give presents to the young ones. It's just a Christmas dinner. Oh, but the main course is a goblin, and he can become an NPC if you rescue him. He's very annoying. My players didn't rescue him. They didn't care. Then there's the Mage Room. So there's someone in a pit, right? And they're trapped. It was like a trap that the mage sprung. And the mage down there, you can rescue them. But they're evil. They're an evil mage. But yeah, it's whatever. And then there's the SYNECDOCHE room. I don't know how to pronounce that. Yeah. So it's like it's a room that has a miniature scaled version of the dungeon in the room, and it can kind of foreshadow upcoming threats, like it foreshadows the final boss of the dungeon and stuff, and you can get some treasure from there, like a tiny wand of magic missiles that's like the size of a toothpick. And yeah. That can get screwed up. G got that. It's destroyed now, but he got it. And then there's a buttless zombie room. Very strange. My group didn't go in here. It's a room... Or did my group go in here? Oh, they went in here the second time they played the Buttless zombie room. Right, so there's a bunch of Buttless zombies, and there's a ghoul tied to a chair, and the ghoul begs for your help. If you help the ghoul, it attacks you. Got him. Then there's the mini doors room. This room is just it's just annoying. You go in and you keep opening doors, and you have to roll on a table to see what doors you get, and eventually you can exit. You have to roll a 12 on a d12 to exit. Then there's a wizard room, which is just a room with an evil wizard, and you can use a ray gun on him if you figure that stuff out. And then, as I said, I've run this twice. Actually, 1.5 times, because the first time I ran it with... They were dumb about it. Oh, I've talked about that at length on multiple episodes. But there's one room that's a Meeseeks room, and it's literally just a room with a Meeseeks box in it. You get a Meeseeks box as a magic item. And there are rules that keep it from becoming too powerful, and also keep you from leaving the dungeon with it. So yeah, that's I really wanted to roleplay those Meeseeks. I really wanted to see what they'd ask for. Didn't happen either time. Yeah. So, and then there's an evil clock room where there's like this big countdown, and they have to figure out how to stop the countdown. But the thing is, they can't stop the countdown, so eventually they just get mad, and then when the countdown ends, they can exit the room. They guessed that like immediately, and I was like, "How did you guys know that?" And they went, "Oh, we saw a YouTuber who did the same thing," and I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then there's the Goblin Room. This room was probably my favorite one to role play. Not my favorite room out of the batch, but my favorite one to role play. It's just packed with goblins that are dressed like and act like Morty. And then there's a simple color matching puzzle. Right? It's incredibly easy. An elementary schooler could figure it out. You just have to match the colors you see in the room with the gems. That's all you have to do to move on. My players tried 2 combinations, got mad after 2 tries, tried to intimidate the goblins who don't know the answer, and then they got mad and just went backwards and refused to continue in the dungeon, and then eventually they died because they refused to continue. It was insane. But it actually says on here, if they get something that makes sense, just give it to them because they're probably too stupid to figure it out. And it says that, or something along those lines, in the dungeon. And I was like, that's exactly what happened. Then there's the bathroom room. It's a bathroom. It's a bathroom. The Tommy Two Butts room. This one was really funny. I loved it. There was a fireball cast in here that did not go over well. So he's a scientist with 2 butts. He's a bugbear. And he wants to destroy the butt trap and give everyone their butts back. I had fun in this room. This was a great one to roleplay and DM. The next room is the commercial room, where it's just like a hobgoblin, and it's an ad break. It's an ad break! And your characters have to be in the ads, and if they do a bad job, it was bad. Next up is the room that TPK'd the party on the first playthrough. The Ooze Cult Room. Yeah. So there's a cult that drinks ochre jellies. They're cults that drink the jellies and then vomit them up. And some of this was used on a devil in Descent into Avernus, because Meist Balstar, G, saved some. Pretty wild. After the second playthrough, when they actually made it through. Yeah. So that was good. And then there's the pirate room. It's Pirates of the Pancreas, right? It's Pirates of the Pancreas. It's a bunch of animatronic pirates. Pancreatic juice flowing through it, you know. It's like a river of insulin or something, I don't know. And then the pirates like point a cannon at them and make them answer a riddle. Here's the riddle. This is an elementary school level riddle. Arr! A landlubber has a barrel full of gold coins that weighs 500 pounds. Then he puts something in the barrel and ho! Now it weighs less than 500 pounds. What did he put in the barrel, ye dogs? It's a hole. It's the most obvious answer in the world. They didn't even try to answer it. It stumped them so hard, they didn't even try. They attacked the pirate and ran away. Everyone's a moron but me. Then you have the clone room, which is a room where they fight themselves. You have the heavy door room. This was one I don't think I really got to do. It's a door, really heavy, indestructible door with a flame skull on the other side. Then there's the Schwifty Room. It's a room where you have to get Schwifty. So a spectator comes down, right? You know, like the beholders that guard things. The one with the one big eye in the center, 4 eyes on eye stalks, green. And it's one of the heads. It's one of the big floaty space heads. I forget what they're called. And it goes, show me what you got. And you got to perform. You got to pass a performance check. And then you get treasure if you win. Ta-da! That room, that's one problem I have with this. Some rooms make zero sense unless you've seen the show, but if you're just a Dungeons & Dragons player who picked it up and doesn't watch the show but tries to play everything they release, it's not going to make that much sense to you. I think this dungeon, one thing that would have made it better was if it didn't rely so heavily on references and just was Rick and Morty style humor just straight on. Then there's a mimic room where it's like every time they do something, everything they try to do is a mimic. That's pretty fun. There was the virus room. Connor refused to not metagame in this room, and I had to get onto him for it. But, yeah, he's shaped up. It's fine. So there's, like, spiders, and there's, like, a virus in the air, that, and anything you read, it makes you do it, etc. It can be pretty crazy. Then there's a lever room that has a bunch of levers, and you're like punished if you pull the levers. Then there's a chapel of the Buttless room. This is a room that my group never got to. They always like I think they might have got to it, but they destroyed all the butts, so it didn't matter. These are like people who don't have butts, who've gone zealotous, culty, you know. Then there's a Nothic room. This room's kind of cool, right? So it plays on like insecurities and stuff. But here's also one thing about the Lost Dungeon of Rickedness, Big Rick Energy. It's written specifically for the pre-made characters in the box set. If you do not play the pre-made characters, you actually have to change a lot, because it has insecurities for each one of those sheets. But if you're a DM and they're just running their own characters in here, just have them give you some insecurities and insights and stuff that the Nothic can point out, and etc. And then there's something called Frankie Freeme's room. It's like a chain restaurant room. My group didn't go here. It's like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing going on with an animatronic like alligator who's also like they're like a hillbilly also. It's pretty wild. My group didn't go there. Then there's the Treasure Treats room. It's straight out of Willy Wonka, but instead of everything being made of candy, it's all made of treasure. If they take anything, they're punished. If they leave without taking anything, they're rewarded. My group was smart enough to not take anything. Got him. Then there's the nice butterfly room. So this is like a room, and there's also this thing going on in the dungeon where there's a second dungeon master who shows up and displaces Rick as the dungeon master, because your dungeon master, all the block text you read is like Rick talking, because he's the DM. And he gets like dethroned by a regular dungeon master, and then at the end he comes back and steals his throne back. I just cut that stuff out because it was stupid. But yeah, it's basically just a nice room with that. And then there's a fun room with skeletons. And if you play music and dance with the skeletons, they give you skeletal instruments that are pretty cool. Then there is the Mama Owlbear room. This is the room that made me want to quit D&D. There's an owlbear in here, and her younglings have left the nest. She literally has empty nest syndrome. And you just have to appease her, motherly instincts and stuff. So, what most players would have done was maybe find her something she could treat as her child, like a little creature or something she could raise, or give her a doll that she could snuggle. My players were like, let's have sex with it and impregnate it so it can have more babies. And I was like, that's the first thing you go to? Bestiality? Okay. Christ. Then we go into the boss room where they fight a young green dragon. Yikes. My group did not handle the young green dragon well. And in this part of the dungeon, like, Rick is supposed to show up as the DM and a character and basically just ex machina the boss. Pretty much. Which is really stupid. Bad writing. And then there's a little conclusion and stuff. There are several magic items you can get. Potion of Healing, Ring of Protection, Wand of Magic Missiles, Winged Boots. Which is pretty cool. Lots of creature stat blocks. And there's stuff in the back explaining like alignment and armor class and stuff. Because once again, this is from a newer box set, but a starter set, It's from a starter set. So it kind of explains all that stuff within. And then we go to the back, which has our creature stat blocks, as I said. And the art from it is just the regular D&D art for lots of these creatures. It doesn't even show art for every creature. I think this art should have been Rick and Morty style art, actually. If you're going to do Rick and Morty style art for everything else, why not just a few more creatures in the back? If you're only going to do art for a handful of the creatures in the back by the stat blocks anyways, why not make it all, Justin Roiland style? It seemed weird that they were just literally copy and pasted pictures in the back when everything else was in the Rick and Morty style. I think you could afford it, Wizards. I think you could afford it. Some of these things were already drawn in Rick and Morty style in pictures in the dungeon. So some of those you could have just copied and pasted into the back, and others you could have... You barely would have had to do anything else. It was, pretty wild. Yeah. So, I mean, there's things wrong with this that I didn't like. If you want to run it with characters other than the pre-mades, which I kind of do recommend, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to it to kind of change it up so that it's like that. But, I mean, once again, it's got great art. It's a very fun dungeon. Watch the first 3 seasons of Rick and Morty, or at least the first 2 and then the Pickle Rick episode before you run it as a DM or play it as a player, because you won't enjoy it as much if you don't get the references. But if you're just a Rick and Morty fan who doesn't play Dungeons & Dragons, it's a good start for you. So yeah, I think I've talked about the Rick and Morty D&D stuff enough on this podcast. Hopefully I'll never mention it again unless I'm trying to shame Big Boy Chungus for having sex with an owlbear. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. If you're listening to this on YouTube, I recommend listening to it somewhere like Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. 1, because I get paid on those platforms and I don't get paid on YouTube. And 2, they're uploaded like much earlier on the podcasting platforms and not the video platforms. Like, if you're listening to this on YouTube, everyone else has already listened to it on Spotify or something. So, catch up. But that's it. Next episode, Big Boy Chungus will probably be back. I recorded these distanced, so no Big Boy Chungus. He didn't have time today to record one. I record an episode every weekend And this weekend, Big Boy Junkers could not do one. So that's it. Thank you all once again for your support, and I'll see you all next time.